Okay, so I'll try to make this short. I'm Joao Damas. I work for Internet Systems Consortium, and it is about things you could do to start using DNSSEC today, rather than wait like everyone else. So what's the status of DNSSEC? As far as most people have said, the standard itself is complete. There are still some extensions that are being discussed, but you can use the thing as it is right now. There are at least 2 implementations of servers that you can choose from, and 1 implementation of DNSSEC aware resolver, in this case bind. So the pieces are in place. The problem is the data. Not a lot of people are signing their data, so you can really make use of the protocol unless this happens. DNSSEC for validation of data follows a hierarchical model, which is the same, is parallel to the DNS tree delegations. So you start at the root, try to verify the data there, then go on to TLDs, SLDs, and so on. So the problem is that for this whole thing to work automatically and everyone to be able to benefit from it without having to do anything special, the root would ideally have to be signed, but it is not. And it's likely that it will remain this way for some time, a long time probably. So far, very few TLDs have signed their data, in particular that I'm aware of. Sweden, Russia, and .org are working on it. But that's just 3, and there are a lot more. So what can you do if you want your zone to be signed? If the people you talk to, the people who resolve your name servers, would benefit from having your data secured? Well, the DNSSEC does have handles that allow for a local policy. Local policy meaning things you can tell your resolver how to do that it would do in addition to what's specified in the stripped down protocol. For instance, you can have your collection of trusted entry points into the DNSSEC tree that you collect, much like you would collect PGP keys around from parties you can trust, and configure them statically in your bind configuration, and then if these people sign your zone, you'd be able to validate them. The problem with these is that it's a manual process, and if you have too many of them, it becomes a nightmare to maintain this stuff. So what I'm talking about now is a mechanism to try to automate these housekeeping of bunches of trusted entry points into the DNS validation process. So this is an extension to the standard DNSSEC validation process. It's something that's implemented on the resolver side. Servers don't care about this. It is, at least we think it is, a matter of local policy. You decide whether you want to use it or not. And what it does is it basically points your name server to a remote repository of keys that, of course, you'd have to trust as a good repository of keys. So far, there is code for these in the bind resolvers, which you can download and use. And I hope more implementations will come around. So, a DLV lookup. When you enable or request DNSSEC validation of a DNS lookup, a normal bind, for instance, will try to go through the normal DNSSEC validation. And it's only if it fails, if you cannot find the proper data to validate the answer, and you have this DLV option configured, that it will go then and do a lookup in the DLV tree. So the standard process takes priority. This is what you'd need to do to configure bind to use this feature. Basically, you tell it where the repository is. There are a couple of them around. ISC is operating DLV registry right now, and we are starting to collect keys. We would welcome anyone's keys to be added to there, so that we can at least have DNSSEC be useful, rather than just talk about it and not get anywhere. this chunk of configuration and more instructions on what to do if you want to participate and if you want to play the game are available at ISC's website on the operations tab. As I said, ISC is operating one. The one we are operating is going to be free to anyone. We are trying to collaborate with registrars so that registrars can authenticate their users and give us the data for them. It's quite likely that registrars might even sign the data for the users if they are hosting their zones without the user actually needing to get involved in the whole process of managing the keys. Selling these, for instance, as a value-add service, just like they serve what they call privacy services, hiding whose information these days. It's very likely that some parts of the DNS will be using features like these, for instance, .mil. And basically, I just want to get it out there, and if you want to use it, go look and ask us questions, send us the keys, and start using it. Because otherwise, DNSSEC doesn't look like it will go anywhere anytime soon. And so, this is it. Are there any questions?
Joao, Mark Hosters from VeriSign. Are there any plans to actually configure DLV registries per TLD, or is there only going to be one?
Bind is coded to allow only one at any given time. It doesn't tell you, you can choose whichever you want.
Okay.
But you can only, the code only allows for one right now.
I think it would be useful if you could allow it to be configured per TLD.
Okay. Paul?
Andy Bush, IIJ.
Okay.
I have some feeling or understanding how if IANA actually had a signed root, would be validating the keys and zones it has keys for. I may or may not like that, but I mean, I at least understand it. I do not understand how you are validating the set of keys you are proposing to store.
Mostly, okay, there are several ways. If the key is provided to us by registrars.
I'm suggesting you publish it.
Oh, okay.
Right? In other words, you're asking me to trust this.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, I think
so I think your, your security policy therefore becomes a serious question and should be published.
The web page has some information, but just because it's short, I'll say it now. In the case of registrars acting as proxies to give us the keys, we count on the registrar authenticating their user because they have an established relationship. In the case that you want to give the key to us directly, then we do just like PGP. Show me your key, show me your face. And I'll publish more details.
How do you know the keys, the trust key you're giving me for .de is indeed the real one?
You probably have some record that you own that domain, right?
No, no, no. I'm going to use this to do a secure validation of a lookup in DE.
Mm-hmm.
How do I know the DE you are handing me is the DE? The trust key. In other words, how do I know that that hop is secure? I need to know your security policy.
Okay. I've just said it out loud.
Paul Vixie, ISC. I wanted to follow up on Mark Koster's question. Because his question, I think, was changed. You can only have one DLV registry configured for any particular point in the namespace, for example, at the root zone. But you can configure one for a TLD that is different from the one for the root if you want to do that. The reason you would do that is if the owner of a TLD was very paranoid and wanted to be the only repository of the DLV keys in that part of the namespace. The example that we usually use for that would be .mil. Certainly if .com wanted to run a DLV registry and try to get the world's DLV configured validators to have that key and information in it, they could do that. if every TLD wanted to do that, they would probably find a certain amount of cut and paste fatigue among the user population, and that is why ISC plans to operate a registry at the root level and plans not to charge any money for that.
My name is Rick Wesson, and I also run Alice's Registry, which is a small domain registrar. And I'm considering doing this. And so if people have com, net, org, biz, info, US names, when they get their registry set up, I'd be happy to work with you on configuring your name to use their DLV registry, if that's interesting. It's something that I'm interested in trying out, just seeing how DNSSEC works. And I'm happy to put the extensions into Alice to do it.
Sam.
Sam Weiler, Sparta. I share some of the concerns I heard Randy mention about ISC's ability to authenticate entries in their DLV tree, and I think that ISC is not the best entity to be running a DLV registry. So I would encourage those who are registrars or are running DNS registries to consider running a DLV registry as an alternative to ISCs.
It's an open market.
You don't need code. You really don't need code.
Okay, I think that's it. Thanks.